I'm Sasha, and we're coming to you from Studio B on WOUB, 1340 AM, and online at WOUB.org.
And make sure to follow us on Instagram at the740 and Twitter at the740OU. So Sasha, we are in week 4. How has your week been? Because mine has been the week from hell.
Definitely have to second that. It's been a really stressful week. And I feel for me it's because I'm still not used to leaving my apartment in the morning and not being able to conveniently come back when I forget things. So for instance, last week I did this 2 times. Took my laptop to class, completely left my charger at home, and it's not oh my god, let me just walk over to my dorm and get my charger. It's no, my apartment's 20 minutes away. Not really, but still,
no,
it's a struggle. Low-key, high-key. But yeah, exciting news though. The Jesus people were back this week. Did you see them?
Yeah, that was pretty hard to forget. But honestly, this week was just stressful in terms of RA responsibilities and just organizational stuff. And honestly, I'm going to be honest, your junior year is just stressful because you honestly don't know if you are doing what you want to do. So
yeah, I'm really sick of getting asked the question, do you know what you want to do after college? No, I don't know what I want to do after college. And then when I'm I have 2 years, they're those are going to fly by. I know they're going to fly by. Can you relax? Can you let me get through this week 4 before you ask me, what are you going to, I don't know where I'm going to be when I'm 25. Calm down. It's not that serious.
But truly, if you're a freshman or sophomore, live up those 2 years, because even though sophomore year is kind of a hint of junior year in terms of stress and just a huge workload, it's still a piece of cake. So just enjoy those 2 years.
Definitely agree. So today on the show we have a very special guest. His name is Kofi Hill, and he's from Akron, and he's an artist. His latest single, called Hands Up, Don't Shoot, which is currently on YouTube and also on his Instagram pages, which we'll all give you before the end of the segment.
So how are you tonight, Kofi?
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
We're good.
I'm good.
We're happy to have you on.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So, both my co-hosts and I have listened to your single, Hands Up, Don't Shoot. And we have a lot of questions for you today, this evening. But I figure before we actually go into the song, can you tell us a little bit more about your background? So, what you do, what inspired you for the song, your personal relations with the Black Lives Matter, Hands Up, Don't Shoot movement.
Of course. Well, it all started when I was 7 years old. I started rapping when I was 7 and writing, skits for movies when I was 7. I was in Akron, Ohio at 14 years old. And back then I was wild. I was real wild. I was always fighting, always looking for reasons to be mad, you know what I mean? And I didn't take too well, if I'm being honest, I didn't take too well to white people, Caucasian people, a lot of people that know me, they'll tell you that. But then I got into some trouble in Akron with the gangs and the gang activity, so I moved down to Columbus. Not really Columbus, but Lewis Center, 15 minutes away from Columbus. And, living out there, it opened my mind up. It started allowing me to see what life really was and how, people outside the hood operated. So moving out there, I was always doing music. I was doing music from a young age. But moving out there, it helped me to become more versatile in my music, because out in the suburbs, a lot of people judgmental, looking for reasons to shun you out, shut you down. So, I took that as motivation. For a long time, I hated myself for it. I just couldn't understand why I didn't fit in the suburbs. And even though a lot of people liked me, I was the quarterback of the football team, I just never was really happy within myself. So, that's really how it all got started. And then I turned 18. I had a group called The Last Breed back in high school. We was rapping, but we wasn't really serious. We was rapping about the clubs, the turn up, the drinking.
The basics.
The basics,
exactly.
Right. But, taking what I knew and my life experiences and the people around me, my family, I started to see life for what it really was. And I started becoming more open-minded and aware to the fact that I was put on the earth for these type of songs to change the game with these type of songs, to tell life how it really is, tell the world what they need to hear, but they might not want to hear. So that's how I got started.
Well, I certainly think it's important to address things that people don't want to talk about. And I feel like in college you are with a group of like-minded people in a sense. And so people do, in some cases, value the same things, but a lot of times there's still that fear of like upsetting that group of people,
right,
or the people who you aren't similar to.
Right. Yeah. But, it goes back past college. It starts high school at a young age. When we kids, we not corrupted. We not what's the word I'm looking for? We not conditioned, to be what people want us to be and think what we want to be. We pure. And then when you grow up, you start, like I said, people start shunning you and judging you on the way you talk or where you from or the way you look or what you got and don't got. So, people they adapt to that lifestyle and that environment, and it hurts them basically, because it hurted me.
So you had talked about before that you were involved when you were younger in gangs, and that's why you had to move down to Columbus. So specifically, not in regards to the gangs, but in regards to your...
Let me just address that before you finish.
Sure.
I was never in a gang, but a lot of my cousins was in gangs, and I hung with a lot of people who were in gangs. I was the good kid, Mad City.
So you were around that culture.
Right.
I understand.
Right.
So seeing that around you and being influenced, of course, by the decisions of so many other people, because crime affects everybody, not only the ones committing the crime. What were your relations like with the local officers, or how you viewed police in general? Because when I listen to the song, there's definitely a strong sentiment to what you feel towards police brutality. Mm-hmm. So can you just talk more about how was that when you were younger? Because I feel like it definitely leads up to where you are now.
When I was 14 years old, first let me address the fact that there is a lot of hostility and tension towards police brutality in the song that I wrote. But I do have, older friends that are police officers, and I have a cousin that's a police officer. I'm not gonna say all cops are bad. But when I was 14 and my personal experience with a police officer, I was slammed on my neck in high school, by a cop, and then took to the juvenile detention center. So my perception on cops is not good, and it's not the person in the uniform, it's the uniform that makes them like that makes them hostile towards citizens, that makes them abuse their power. It's not the person, I can't judge a person because I don't know what they've been through. I don't know where they come from. But I do know when they get in that uniform, they become, a hero or a villain,
So I have a question, kind of backtracking to you first starting out as rapping. Did your friends and family support that path that you were taking, and how did they feel about you shooting the video?
My friends, everybody around me always tell me, Kofi, you gonna make it. That's something I take pride in, knowing that I'm gonna make it. Regardless of who tell me who I won't or I can't, I'm gonna make it. My grandmother, she's always been very supportive. She didn't like the song when it first came out because she's old school. She don't want to see me putting myself in a position where I can potentially be harmed by a police officer or, in trouble, so to speak. But the world need to hear it, When Malcolm X was on this earth, he didn't back down. So I'm not going to back down, Martin Luther King, he led in a different way, but he didn't back down, And I feel like in today's rap, shout out to all the people that's doing it and doing their thing and making their money, but, the club and the alcohol and the weed ain't gonna change the next generation. And I got little brothers and sisters. They not gonna come up thinking just because they got a Louis belt and a gun that it makes them somebody.
Yeah, I think music definitely helps advocate like some really serious issues because it has such an influence on our generation anyways. So I definitely think that is a good way of, reaching out to people. Alright guys, we are back to continue our discussion with Kofi on his latest single.
So the first question, and something that really stuck out for me, was the chorus itself. And I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. You say, blink the police. So why exactly is the chorus F the police when you think that not all police are bad, you can actually work with them, it's not them personally, it's the uniform. So why did you choose that chorus?
Like in the beginning of the song, 90% of them are like that, not 10%. So if it's not 50-50, then I'm going to roll with the 90%, and I'm going to aim that song at the 90%.
Now, my question for you on that is, I feel like attitudes like that sometimes contribute to more of a feeling where we can't work with police officers. And I'm not at all saying all police officers are good, nor am I saying all police officers are bad. But I do think it's more than 90% of them who are out there actually trying to do their job. And my problem with the chorus itself is that I feel sometimes attitudes like that only contribute to younger generations before they even have interaction with police officers, hearing that type of music and thinking they can't ever work with us, we can never come together to form some type of unity and to change the way the system works.
Right. I would agree. I would definitely agree with you, but like I said, my personal experience, and shout out to my boys YD and Crucial, by the way, and my brothers. They couldn't be here, unfortunately. But our personal experience with police officers is our direct, reflect on why we did this song. And I understand you say it could possibly contribute to more of the hostility and the anger going on, but how long has this been going on? Like, police brutality been going on since the 1800s. It didn't just start in the 1950s. It didn't just start in, they've been doing people like this since the beginning of time. Whether it's black people, Mexican people, white people, doesn't matter. To me, I just say F the police, because it's just a general statement. Like, you can't, if you can't do nothing good for me, then I can't do nothing good for you. I can't help you when you want to harm me. Now, granted, you have police officers who are willing to help, and I've ran into police officers like that. But at the same time, I just, with the hands up, don't shoot. And that's why I didn't name it F the police, because the song, the statement in the song is really saying, my hands are up, please don't shoot me. Look at the innocent ones who lost their lives over that. George Zimmerman, he wasn't a cop, but he got off of a murder charge. He's white. Trayvon Martin was black. Freddie Gray was black. Mike Brown was black. Sandra Bland was black. So it's not about me. It's not about Crucial. It's not about YD. It's about all of them who lost their life in that video, and even more people. You got people dying left and right at the hands of police officers. And what happens? They go to trial, they get acquitted, beat the case, and leave with a smile. Quote unquote Kofi Hill.
I had a question. Did you have a question?
No.
Okay.
I have one later.
I definitely agree with the later part of your statement. And for me, that shows that there's a problem with the justice system itself. And that's where part of, I think, the problem with where this movement needs to go, because a lot of the times I hear hands up, don't shoot, which is so true, because there are a lot of problems with police brutality. But my problem is the fact that police officers can do this, go to trial through a system that's supposed to be just, and then come out without any charges. So that's for me where I think we need to look back at the system and see.
I don't mean to cut you off, Sasha.
Of
I want to be respectful of your show, but you have blacks doing life in prison behind dope. You got people doing 80 years for things that they should be getting maybe 3 years of probation for, or 10 years of probation, or maybe 5-10 years in prison. You never know the circumstance. But when you have the ability to take someone's life and walk away, and you have other people, selling dope is not good, but
it's not as bad as killing somebody and taking a life away.
But the selling dope is not good. I'm starting a movement based on all of this. But, you know, some people do it because they got to feed their family. Some people go to prison for 10 years, get out, and they can't get a job because their previous record says they're a felon. You know, they can't go get a suit up tie, and I drive a BMW with my cell phone, and I work on the 80th floor of a high building in New York because of their skin color, you know?
And I think a lot of people's problem is their role is to protect our community, but they're taking so many people away from it. And so it's kind of hard to trust and respect officers if all of this is happening constantly. I mean, it seems like it's almost every other week, if not every week.
I think it goes back to the point that I'm making. There's a problem with the justice system. It goes
Exactly.
twofold. And so the statement before you have made yours is, yes, we have a problem with police brutality, but if we have a system that's not working, that's what I think everybody's attention needs to be drawn to, because how can you have a fair trial if you have people who are murderers and it doesn't are getting off?
Can I ask y'all both a question?
Sure.
Who's our president?
Barack Obama. But
oh wait, let me finish.
Mm-hmm.
Who does Barack Obama have to go through to get laws passed?
Congress.
Exactly.
I was going to say,
and do you
Congress
see
is selected by.
Do you see a bunch of black people, African Americans in Congress?
Nope.
Or do you see a bunch of old Caucasian guys who are Republicans?
For the most part, yes. But that goes back to my personal opinion, and this is a whole different conversation. It's about politics in general. While, you know, America goes under this ideal that we're a very democratic system, I personally believe we live in a corporatocracy where corporations and those who run the corporations predominantly make the decisions for the rest of the country. And while, you know, you have Congress, you have us who elects Congress, there's a whole nother system out there that I don't think the majority of the public is quite aware of and understands the function that money has in everything that happens here in our country.
Going back to that, media doesn't help either, because media tends to put a really big spin on things. And I'm not saying that there aren't a lot of black people in the media. There is, but a lot of these big networks, like Fox, for example, they do have representation.
They don't get their ratings off telling you how, you know, a black person helped someone and made their life better. They make their ratings off of telling you how this person killed somebody or robbed a bank, or how this is a blood or a Crip, or how he's a thug, or
it's sensationalism.
No one knows Trayvon Martin was in space camp, but they see his Facebook pictures of a blunt in his mouth, you know.
And my issue is that if it's a white person, and not always, but this is just the cases that I've seen, you know, they are misunderstood. They need help.
Who needs help?
I'm saying, you know, the white people who are in the situations where it's similar to a black man.
By no means am I, you know, taking shots at white people, because I have a lot of friends who are white.
Of course not.
You know, but at the same time, there's a different standard in this country that we live in. You know, you go to Italy, they stick together. They're in Italy. What are there over there? Who are over there? Should I say Italians? You go, you know, anywhere else, they have their people over there. America is a pot of stew with a whole bunch of vegetables in it, you know, stirred up. So, you know, with that being said, what I'm trying to say is, you can't aim it at the white people, you know, but you aim it at the corrupted people who happen to be white. You know what I mean? I'm not aiming this
it's
on.
important not to generalize an entire race.
Exactly. So that's really all I had to say for that question.
That's the lyrics and kind of your goal behind and kind of your idea with the video, but how did you kind of execute those ideas in the music video? Because it was really well put together, and we just kind of want to know your vision behind it.
Well, first and foremost, shout out to my cousin, De'Air Smith, DB for TV. He helped me a lot with directing it, and he edited the video. I told him what clips to put in it, and he did his thing. So, you know, a big applause go to him. So I can't really speak on how he did it, but I can speak on how I came up with the ideas. You know, I had a video about 2 years ago with the same beat, and it was called F the Ops, you know. But the song was done in a very unintelligent way, uneducated way, ignorant way, you know. So with me being 20 years old now, I had to go back to the drawing board. I'm like, okay, this beat is hot, but I wanna make history with this song, you know. So when the song came out as hot as it did, I started, you know, thinking of ideas for the video, and like in F the Ops, I had a video of Trayvon Martin getting killed, but it was a reenactment. And this time around, with me being true to myself, back then I was LV, you know, the rapper, but now I'm Kofi Hill. I'm true to myself, you know, and can't nobody take that away from me, you know. So I said, okay, if I'm gonna do this like this, I'm gonna do it authentic this time. I'm gonna tell America what's really going on. I'm not gonna tell you what I think by showing a reenactment and showing someone in a bad light. I'm gonna take these clips that y'all done put on CNN and Fox News and put them in my video and show you that this is truth, and you can't take that away from me. You know, if you want to say you don't like the video, or you know you think the video is too much, or you think the video is this, that, and the third, one thing you can't take away from me is that it's true, you know, and it's based on truth, you know. So
And definitely, like Lindsay said, that's something that I really admired from the video, because a lot of times I'll see music videos and it's just a bunch of bull, to be frank with it. But what I was impressed with was your use of historical clips in the video, because from the very beginning you kind of weaved in the current times, but as well as a lot of political movements that have happened. So my question.
Go ahead.
So my question for you with that is, you know, looking at leaders like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and now looking at this generation, besides, you know, being, you know, going to protest, being active, making music and art that shows our frustration, what else can we do? Because my problem is a lot of times it stops with stuff like this. So people are aware, but then what are we actually going to do to change the system?
Like you said earlier, the number one thing in America is money, you know, and you got to have money to have a voice. You know, a lot of people say, no, you can go to these protests and, you know, these places, but these boys that's killing each other, they're not hearing that. You know, they don't want to hear how, you know, something happened with the older black people and one of their friends was hung and all of that, because there's no love in the streets. They don't care about that. So the way I think you change it is you make it, and I'll be the one to do it. I was chosen for this, you know. When I make it, this is what I want to do. I want to make it first, get the money, show the boys that you can do it in a different way than rapping about smoking weed and rapping about killing your brother, because that's what it is. It's your brother, you know. Regardless if he in the color red or blue, that's your brother, and they don't understand that. But it's not that they don't understand it because they don't want to understand it. They're not aware. They're not educated, you know. They're in environments where they don't have the same resources as the kids that set up in the suburbs. And I can say that because I went from the hood to the burbs, you know what I mean? So I know what it's like on both scales, both sides of the fence. And a lot of people in the hood, they don't get to see that, you know? And a lot of people in the burbs, the black people in the burbs, they can't relate to the hood because they ain't never seen that. All they see is what the movies show you. Bunch of people killing each other, talking like, oh, this, that, cuz. That's not us, you know, that's not me, you know what I mean? I'm educated, so when it comes to things like that and making a change, you have to first make it and in a different way, in a different lane, you know what I mean? You can't be in the same lane as these rappers who rapping about the same thing and causing destruction to the community, you know what I mean? And when you can sit and say, I don't care how many people I'm rapping about killing, this feed my family. What about all those other families that's losing family members behind your lyrics? You know what I mean? So I'm not taking shots. I'm not taking shots at rappers. I'm saying from my personal experience and view that in order to make a change, you have to give these boys something. You have to give these boys a way to make money. And it ain't working at McDonald's, clocking in at 8 o'clock in the morning and going home at 4 o'clock in the evening. You know what I mean? These boys want fast money, and I do too. Don't get me wrong. That's why I'm not sitting here figuring out slow ways to make money. I don't sell drugs, you know what I'm saying? But I'm using this music and what I know from this music in an intelligent way to get there, to get that fast money so I can help somebody. You know what I mean?
So are there any artists that kind of inspire you or you feel like advocate for the same things as you?
Kendrick Lamar, NWA, you know, Tupac, Boosie Collins, Mary J. Blige, you know, Cameo. I like Zed. I like a lot of old school music because back then it was always about a story, you know. And I respect Kendrick and I respect a lot of people. I like the game, you know. I used to bump his I Don't Need Your Love and start from scratch, you know, all of that because it was conscious music. And whether you were rapping about the hood and rapping about, you know, killing people or whatever, you wasn't rapping about it like, oh, load my gun and shoot this brother in his head. You know what I'm saying? You telling how it really was in the hood. And that's why when people see these movies, yeah, it's what go on in the hood, but they don't tell the other side of it, you know? They tell this drive-by that happened, and these boys just smoked these boys, but they don't tell the Sunday morning with the cookouts and the little kids playing with their water guns, you know? I made a song, it was like, today was a good day, ain't nobody in the hood get smoked, you know what I mean? Because they don't tell, like you said, the media don't tell the good side of the hood and where we come from. You know, I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't struggle. If I had a silver and platinum and gold spoon in my mouth when I was yay high. You know what I mean?
So I know we were both in African American Studies together. It was the media class, actually, which I encourage everyone to take. Do you feel like that class kind of opened up your eyes to some of the issues or maybe reaffirmed some of the things that you felt?
I want to first applaud Dr. Houston. He's a genius.
Shout out to Dr. Houston.
He's a genius because he taught me and showed me a lot of things that I didn't even know. I didn't know nothing about, you know, the 50s and these people taking black women and making their lips huge and like making them look foolish, making them look like buffoons, you know what I mean? Because we've never been buffoons. If we were that bad, then why did y'all take us from Africa and bring us over here to be slaves? We were kings and queens before we were somebody's servant, you know what I mean? So I applaud Dr. Houston.
And that goes actually back to a question I had previously. You know, you talk about consciousness and things like that.
Excuse me.
That's okay. And I feel a lot of that can come from better educating our black youth. Because, right. You know, you talk about we came from kings and queens. A lot of kids, the only history they know is slavery. That's what's taught. Right. A lot of times in the textbook, it's not taught. And I got to learn this when I went to Senegal this summer and actually got to live with the Senegalese family who are so proud of their culture and where they come from. But I feel as black Americans, that doesn't transcend. You know, you ask people where they come from, where their origins. A lot of times people don't know because it is slavery. So what do you think the educational system can do in terms to better educate our black youth and let them know the true history?
I was one of those boys that cared nothing about my history. You know, I didn't want to hear nothing about I was a king or a queen because I see these dudes on TV making money from rapping about killing people. You know what I mean? So I can't tell you what the educational system can do because they didn't do much for me. All that they taught me how to read, they taught me how to count, but they didn't teach me, you know, what I needed to know. You know, outside of school taught me that common sense and growing up in the hood and going through a lot of stuff in the suburbs. You know what I mean? Like when I was a senior in high school, they said I smacked a white girl, you know what I mean? And it'll tell you on camera. That's why I didn't. The cop sat in the office and said, you would be going to jail for 6 months for this, but it doesn't look like you smacked her because all I did was push her. But she told the whole city that I smacked her, right? And you know, I had to deal with a lot. Like I ended up with a collapsed lung and 3 fractured ribs behind that whole situation. And I was a quarterback, lost my scholarships to college, all of that. You know what I mean? So I can't tell you what these educational systems can do because do they really care? No. At the end of the day, I'm waking up, I'm teaching you about, you know, arithmetic. I'm getting my paycheck and going home. You know, maybe y'all can like give us a chance to allow more of our people to be in those positions. Maybe you can allow, you know, these people that come from this background to be a principal or to be a teacher, and
I don't mean to cut you off, but it is frustrating because a lot of the textbooks are written from a white perspective.
Exactly. So I can't tell you what they can do. I can tell you what we can do. We can want to become teachers and principals and then make a change ourselves, but we can't make them change. We can't make them do nothing for us. You know what I mean? That's not what they're put there for. They're put there to have their jobs, do their jobs, and keep us where we're at. You know what I mean? So that's how I feel about that.
This is good.